Hey,
I've
Dad
always
worked for Nestle. Dad worked for Nestle, mate. The pre-Kit Kat today didn't really work too well.
This is potentially the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. And that's saying something because there's been some stupid stuff in the history of it.
For me, what was the most rewarding, just learning, taking stuff out of them, and also being given this platform to be able to stand up and represent people of my time.
The only way really to kick poverty in the butt at all is through education, and I probably didn't realise until I went there.
they should back you. It's Water Cooler Weekly. I mean, it's a big deal.
Leonardo da Vinci once said, "A beautiful body perished, but a work of art dies not." Now, I don't know if he was thinking about you when he said that, but I think that perfectly sums you up. Tim Buhagiar, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. That may be the best and worst intro I've ever heard.
Well, if you look at it, your body has perished. Two kids, completely understandable.
I didn't push them out, by the way, but yeah.
That's good. But your work will never die.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. No, look, mate, thanks for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure. But before we do get into what you do, I think it's important to recognise some of the athletes you've worked with.
Yes,
so we've got Dustin Martin, Patrick Dangerfield, Pat Cummins, Lance Franklin, and myself. Now, who was the best athlete you've worked with, and why was it me?
Yeah, I was going to say reverse that order, and that's in order.
Yeah.
It's you, it's Big Lance, it's Paddy, and then Dusty's a bit sloppy.
Is he?
Yeah. I don't know.
He seems like a bit of an enigma. He's always got headphones. Is that a sponsorship thing?
No, well, if you're referring to the spot, I think you're referring. Oh, in both spots I did. He had headphones.
Had both headphones on.
I think that's just like a daggy uncle trying to make him cool, Like it's
you?
Yeah. It's like, hey, Dusty, put on some headphones because that's what the kids do. No, that wasn't sponsor related. Although I'm sure he's got a Beat sponsorship or something.
I'm sure he doesn't really need it, but
No.
Good on him.
No.
In all seriousness, you are one of Australia's most impressive creative minds working in Australian sport, and I'm looking forward to picking your brain. Rather than me give a rundown on it, why don't you give us a rundown on what it is you do and what it was that attracted you to it?
All right, so what I do is I'm loosely termed a creative, which is which I don't know, is a pretty generic term to be honest. But in my field, I make basically short form, whether it's TV commercials or sort of 60-second to 2-minute bits that prominently play on Fox Sports and then Fox Footy. And they can either be tune-in spots, so they can be pointing to a particular show at a particular time, watch this, or a game, watch this game at a particular time, or it could be something a little bit more conceptual and brand related, like working with Dusty or Patrick Dangerfield, which is something where you sort of the idea behind those is where you tie the Fox Footy brand to a big athlete, and then that way the brand gets exposure by leveraging off his celebrity. So spots like that. And now where I'm at, I'm in sort of more of an advertising role. So but I've been doing it for 17 years across Channel 10, Channel 9, Foxtel, Fox Sports. So
Seasoned vet.
Seasoned vet. Have I explained what I do?
Yeah, you have, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Because whenever I used to say I'm a promo producer, and no one knew what the hell that was.
Yeah.
Even my parents couldn't explain it. But basically it's just a dude that makes commercials.
Yeah. Was that always something that you were interested in, like when you were younger?
I don't know. The two, I used to love two things growing up, or three things: cricket, footy, and TV. And I remember, I used to.
You were good at one of those things.
TV. And I remember I used to always be able to recite any commercial, whether it was a jingle or just dialogue from a commercial. And my dad used to always say, "I hope you know your homework that well." I never did.
Yeah.
But I knew, but I just knew commercial. I don't know, for whatever reason. So maybe that was sort of something in the back of my mind where, I just was naturally drawn to commercials and jingles and just, I don't know, just always stuck in my head.
Yeah. I'm very similar. I can recite the commercial for farmersonly.com, which is an online dating site for farmers. So working at Sportsbet for 6 years, we used to get the American ads, and that would play religiously.
Yeah.
And almost to the point where I wanted to have a farm in America to sign up, but I didn't. But anyway.
I will say, though, I suppose my first exposure to tally, which is where I sort of thought, wow, this is pretty cool, was so I went to a Catholic primary school, St. Mary's, Greensboro.
Oh, they used to kill us in school footy.
Represent you, they always.
Yeah, they were incredible.
And I was an altar boy, and there's nothing nefarious about that. It's just that's what it was.
I'm not touching that.
No one should be touching it. And anyway, so myself and another bloke were chosen to do Mass for You at Home. So Mass for You at Home is a little TV program on Channel 10. They have Sunday morning, so all the elderly and sick or whatever who can't physically attend Mass watch Mass for You at Home on Channel 10. They used to have different altar boys rotate through.
Yeah.
And so I got the call up. This is around 1990, 91. Got the call up to do it. Super pumped, TV debut. Got to Channel 10, Nutter Wadding, really excited. And for whatever reason, they had technical difficulties, and they spent ages trying to fix it. And while they're trying to fix it, they said, "Why don't you two just?" So do you remember Double Dare? There's a game called Double Dare. You're probably too young. I look old. Double Dare physical challenge, and they used to have like all these props and that. So me and my mate just got to play on the Double Dare set for a couple of hours, going down slides and just doing all shit. And you had all the big pedestal cameras sitting around. I was just looking and going, "This is really cool. Like, this is something I might be interested in." That's my first experience of TV, and that was sort of where I thought, "Oh, that might be a go."
Did James Sherry host that show?
The amazing James Sherry. No.
Yeah.
I can't remember who hosted it. It wasn't him, though.
All he's ever done, I would love to see his CV. All his CV would say is host of this kids show.
Yeah.
And then MCs for... Yeah. He's the non-official MC. Like, he's the grounds MC, so you don't see him on TV.
No. Yeah, he's not good enough.
But he just kind of just drifts around the crowd.
I did spend a day on the piss with him at the birdcage once. Not a bad bloke.
Yeah. So... Before you were at Fox Sports, you were at Carlton for a number of years. Carlton obviously have been pretty ordinary for a considerable amount of time, and yes. I did have a look back at the coaches while you were there. Not a couple of, I'm guessing not a couple of great years. What was that experience like? And
I actually was in there. If you were to look at it like a flow chart or a graph or a pie chart, whatever you pick your poison there in terms of graphs and charts, but. I started at Carlton 2000, and I left after the pre-season cup 2002. So
I reckon Port Adelaide won that year.
There was a prelim. 2000 Carlton made the prelim.
Yeah,
and then in 2001 Carlton made the semi-final.
Oh, so they're actually good.
Oh, good. And then I left, and then they went down. So I'm not saying that's. I'm not trying to correlate that, but
I reckon
sort of
Wayne Britton might.
Yeah, who was the people in the coach's box when I was there was Wayne Britton was coach.
Yeah.
David Parkin, who was the transfer of power.
Yeah.
Steve Kernahan, Greg Williams, Barry Mitchell, John Worsfold, Ross Lyon.
Jeez.
And myself. So it's a lot of premierships and games between us all.
Yeah, and you.
Yeah, that was an incredible. I loved my time at the Blues, and my role, during the week, my role was basically to edit all the set play, motivational and individual player tapes.
Yeah.
Back then it was VHS to VHS.
Oh right.
So you'd have
good stuff.
You'd press play on one, then record on the other, and then pause the record, and then it was a lot of work. But that was the sort of dark ages of technology. But and then during match day, I'd sit in the coach's box and I'd be at the laptop, and all the different stats would be coming through the laptop. And every now and again they'd yell out like, "How many Bowen?"
None.
And I'd go,
None.
None. Or it would be something like 7 this quarter,
Yeah.
and I'd either let it go or they'd go, "Fuck, who's on Bowen? Why isn't?"
No one.
And then
Absolutely no one.
yeah, and that was a high pressure job because I'd have to obviously be on the ball with that. And then when there was 5 minutes to go in the quarter, each person in that box, each person I mentioned had their own.
Yeah.
They wanted their own individual stats printout, whatever stats they thought important, and so that was all programmed. And so we had like the little inkjet printer behind me.
Yeah.
5 minutes to go.
Oh, it's so loud.
Just printing.
Yeah.
And then stapling them all together. And as soon as the siren went, it was like just handing them all over. But the other job, which is the job that took years off my life in the coach's box at Carlton, I'm early 40s, but really I'm sort of late 60s, just because of the years I lost. Was Carlton didn't want to use the internal phone system at the grounds.
Okay.
They wanted their own because they were worried about spies.
Oh, shut up. No.
So we used to use this company that made these dial-up phones, and generally speaking, they were pretty good. But when you got a crowd, like when you're at the MCG or Etihad, Marvel now.
Yeah. Get it right, please.
Concrete jungle, 90,000 people, they would wig out. Like,
Yeah.
They weren't built for that, but they were prepared to wear that cost to feel like they weren't being spied on or whatever. So that absolutely took years off my life because to do it, I'd have to dial it from the bench and then answer it in the coach's box and make sure it's connected, and then sort of quarter time, half time, I'd check it out, make sure it's fine.
Yeah.
Every now and again, it would just wig out during a game. And so one game it wigged out was the 2001 semi-final, Carlton-Richmond.
Fuck.
Because it was like 90,000 people. And so it was I think it was halfway through the second quarter, and Britain's just gone, "You there? You there? Budge, it's gone." And I'm like, "Oh." So
What a surprise.
so I'd sprinted, like literally sprinted out while this is happening. They're referring back to the ground comms.
Yeah.
So I'm sprinting out the coach's box, run down the race, jump over the fence, run half the length of the MCG, reset the phone, redial it, run back.
During the game.
Hit it again, connect it up. All right, we're back on. So it took years off. I can't tell you how stressful it was. And then Ross Lyon, because we used to do the Carlton, he used to be Carlton Reserves coach.
I didn't even know he was at Carlton.
Yeah.
Shows my knowledge.
No, well, this is 2000. This is a while ago. When he was reserves coach, he'd always, just as a habit, he'd always go, "You there?" So he's going to, "You there? Go and tell." And then, but every time
that was a pretty good Ross line.
but every time he went, "You there?" and the pause came, and I'd be like,
"Oh,
thank fuck."
Anxiety through
but
the
then,
roof.
Yeah, and sometimes I would go, and then one day, this is a story I tell, is it was a final in the reserves, and I'd made sure it was all sweet during half time, and then he'll come back in and start, and then he's like, "You there? Go and tell so-and-so, you there? Oh, Budge, the bloody phones are gone again." And then someone's gone, "No, Ross, you got to put it on your head." He's, and he hadn't put it on. I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, it just, it was brutal. Brutal. But a lot of fun. A lot of fun in the coaches' boxes. That's probably one of my.
It sounds like a circus.
It was a circus, but it was high intensity, but it was good. It was just a great experience, especially as a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
Like high pressured environment. I've never been I've been able to handle stress from that moment on.
Yeah, right.
Like you don't get much stress.
No.
Stress than that.
Yeah.
But before, just backtracking a little bit if I can, just
absolutely, it's your show.
Before I was at Carlton, I was at North Melbourne.
Oh,
so this is at the start. I had to do my field placement, so my degree was in sports administration, which is certainly no use at all. But I did do a degree in sports admin, and part of I did an 8-week placement. I did it at North Melbourne Footy Club in the footy department.
Yeah. Did they have a footy department back then?
It was all portables. Like this is the cliche. It's true.
They still use them.
I think they've finally got rid of him.
I shouldn't say that. They're playing Port Adelaide round 1. We're going to lose now.
No, you won't. So the first day, my first day at North, this is coming off. They just won the 99 flag, so they're they're pretty happy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was a stinking hot January day, like talking 40s.
Yeah.
My first day there, first time I've ever been experienced AFL club, so I'm absolutely shitting myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm getting introduced. As I said, really hot day, real glary day, So I don't usually wear sunglasses as a general rule, but I don't know. Like I always lose them or whatever.
Yeah.
But you had to. It was one of those days. It was just so hot and glary. You had to wear them. So anyway, so I'm getting introduced to everyone. Anyway, so Dennis comes up to me. I love Dennis Pagan, by the way.
Yeah.
But Dennis comes up to me and I go, "Oh, g'day, Dennis. This is Tim. Tim's starting off here today." I go, "Oh, g'day, Dennis," and he goes, "You a movie star?" I go, "What?" He goes, "You fucking Hollywood." And I'm like, I've already shit myself now. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I'm just like, he goes, "Get the glasses off your head, son, Dennis Pagan." I'm like, I didn't even realise.
Never haven't worn sunglasses since.
And then a couple of days later, he came up and he said, "Oh, look, sorry about that, but back in, I'm not sure what game he was referring to, but basically it was Carlton Geelong, and one of the teams prior to the game had walked out and they all had sunnies on and sunnies on their head, peacocking around. He thought they were peacocking around and they got beat. So whether it was like Geelong were favourites.
You'd hate to see me in summer.
And so he goes, "Oh, ever since they were walking around peacocks and they had their sunglasses on their head and they bloody got lost, they lost and served them right. And ever since that, I hate sunglasses on the and so so sorry, but and then anyway, at the end of my time at North, I said, "Oh, thanks for having me." He goes, "Oh, well done, son. You've earned the right to have sunglasses on your head." I was like, "Oh, thanks, Dennis."
The seal of approval from Dennis.
But like as a baptism of fire,
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Jesus,
I'll
never forget it.
That's all. I've always like wanted to be inside a coach's box, and I think especially back then because so much more stuff would have been said or done, and it like I remember like I always go like we used to get tickets to the Medane Club a lot because no one would take them for the Port Adelaide game. So you go to the St Kilda Port Adelaide Blockbuster and it's like a 8,000 crowd sellout.
Yeah.
And I would always just look in the coach's box. And a lot of the time, like looking at Matthew Primus, kind of like saying stuff to him that I probably shouldn't have said in the Medane Club. But I was like, fuck, I would just love to be in there just to like actually see if what I think is right, which definitely wouldn't have been.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it's changed a lot now, but I'm also sure it hasn't changed a lot. Is that they've done so much of the work during the week, they really can't do a lot.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's just venting and yelling.
And there's no stress on the stats guys. You were like almost you were the Ash Chua before Ash Chua almost. Yeah,
well, how I got into TV was basically after a couple of years at Carlton. I loved it, but I was getting worked like real hard.
Yeah,
no money.
Yeah,
but I also did love TV. But so at the end of 2001, I sent my resume off to. This is when Channel 7 lost the footy rights, and I went to Fox Footy, Channel 10, and Channel 9. So I sent my resume and a letter to all three of the stations just saying, look, want to get into TV. These are my experiences in footy. And the head of Fox Footy saw the letter, rang me up on a landline just randomly.
You are old.
Yeah, I know. There were mobile phones back then, but for some reason it was landline. Yeah, and he rang me up and I had basically interviewed me on the phone on the spot, and then I sort of from there got the job. But the reason I bring that is that was around the same time Ash was hired by Triple M. Yeah. So that was a lot of the stats guys were moving. Footy stats guys were moving into footy media.
Big push for nerds.
It was a massive. It was a great time to be in there.
Yeah.
So quite a few of the stats guys Went across to TV stations and radio stations around that time, around 2002.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Talk about making the jump from there into the the promotion side of things.
So as I said, so I started at Fox Footy back in 2002 just as a production assistant, and all that means is just logging tapes and finding clips and
lattes.
Not quite lattes. I was a step above lattes.
Okay. You were the one above the latte boy.
Yeah, only just.
Yeah.
I used to answer phones, so I can't say I was that far above latte.
Yeah.
And then I produced the Dean and Frankie Footy Show. That was the first show I
remember
produced.
that. Yeah,
the two boys. I used to go out to Craigieburn.
God's country.
Yeah, debatable.
Yeah. No, I'm saying that with a very sarcastic tone.
No, I know.
I don't think I have anyone who listens in Craigieburn. It's an absolute dump.
I know you got a lot of listeners there, though. So
I have a lot of listeners worldwide.
Tread lightly.
Yeah. I'm not welcome in Craigieburn. That's fine.
No, I would never go back there. But yeah, so I used to get a cab. I used to pack the camera and the microphone and one redhead light, and then I'd go out in the cab, 50-minute drive, get there, set up the studio in their garage, and they were both absolute turds.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I love them, but they were turds. Like they'd be kicking the footy around, and I was like, "Come on, guys, we need to get into it." And like, I was just
No way. I was literally going to ask if you're still in touch with them.
I am, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm mates with both of them, but they were good on them. Like they did well to get on TV at that age, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'd probably say it was probably I don't know. They would have been around 12.
Yeah.
But they were both shitheads. But
yeah. It's funny if you look at like the American child stars like you, Macaulay Culkins, they fall off. That's our version.
Yeah.
Hopefully they've taken.
I think they've aged a little bit better.
Yeah, hopefully.
A little bit. So that's how I got into. So that was the first, and then I used to produce the. Each club had their own 15-minute show.
Yeah.
Carlton had one called Planet Blue.
Yeah.
Which is sort of
Yeah.
sounds like an adult sort of entertainment, but
you said it, not me.
And then Tiger TV. So I used to do that. I used to produce those two shows, and then end of 2003, I ended up going overseas with my now wife, Erin, to Europe for. At the time, it was going to be half a year, and so I just sort of said, "Look, I'm going overseas."
Yeah.
And they said, "Can't keep your job, sorry." So I quit.
Yeah.
Did the overseas thing, came back, and then I was just sort of started throwing my resume around again, and one of the guys said, "Oh, I think there's a job in promos at Fox Footy," and so rang up the dude who was in charge of that. He goes, "Yeah, we've got a job here." So went back to Fox Footy. That's how I started in creative.
Yeah.
And again, it was just learning the ropes and whatever. And then from there, I jumped across. When Fox Footy went under, this is the first.
It went under?
This is the first. So Fox Footy on Foxtel was from 2002 to 2006.
I'm all over the shop. I had no idea that happened.
Yeah, and then they just broadcast games as Fox Sports, and then Fox Footy, as we know it now, started again in 2012.
So it went off for 6 years, and I had no idea.
Yeah, but that's
unreal.
okay. I know you researched that.
You're on claim before. I'm like, I've done so much research for this 6-year hiatus.
Yeah, and then so I went to Channel 9 for a year, and I used to do the promos for the Footy Show. Footy Classified was just starting.
Okay.
But also other shows like Bert's Family Feud.
Oh, one of my favourites.
Bert Newton was great. I loved Bert Newton to work with. He was a ripper.
He's still with us.
He's
thank
still
God.
with us.
Hopefully that comes on Netflix.
Temptation, which was like the Sale of the Century.
Yeah.
But then Survivor and some of the other American shows. But then, a year into Channel 9, I got a call from Channel 10, and they said, we need someone to produce our AFL and before the game stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, sounds good. So jumped across to Channel 10, and I was there for 5 years doing that. Then got made redundant from Channel 10, so that was a bit of a body blow, but they lost the AFL rights.
They did. Were you there for 2004?
No, I was still at Fox Footy. 2004 is when I started in creative.
Yeah. Do you remember the grand final?
Was that the Alistair Lynch?
Yeah, Darryl Wakelin. Yeah.
Throwing haymakers.
I still think about it every day. That's all I think about.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was great. And then so after Channel 10, went lucky enough to sort of get a call from Fox Footy, who was starting up again.
Yeah.
Started there end of 2011, and I've been there ever since.
There's a lot of work that you're directly responsible for or have been involved in, and I'm going to touch on a couple of those, and I'd like to get your thoughts and maybe the background on that. So the first one is Mum's Taxi.
Yeah.
We spoke about this before. This has to be the most unbelievable assembly of talent I've ever seen. I'll list off a couple: Dustin Martin, Sam Kerr, Steve Smith, Cameron Smith, Elise Perry, and I'm legitimately leaving out at least another 15 AA class athletes.
Yeah.
How did that even come about?
So that was 2018. Basically, what happened was normally, generally speaking, Fox Sports would outsource their big campaigns to advertising agencies, which is the norm.
Yeah.
And so they put their brief out for the Winter Codes launch, it was called. So it was just, pumping up the fact that footy's coming back and we've got all the different sports and that.
Yeah.
And they weren't happy with any of the ad agency pitches.
Okay.
And then so they said,
let's just get every.
They said to me, do you want to pitch for it? As in, do you want to try and come up with a concept? I was like, yeah. So the basic crux of it was sport all in one place.
Yeah.
Foxtel brings you all the sport all in one place. And so my, for whatever reason, my head went to, mum's taxi or dad's taxi, but the dropping off kids
are going to be
around. It's a truth, right? Like
yeah.
Everyone does it. If you're an adult and you've got kids who play sport, it's mum's taxi. You're dropping off all your different kids everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, if you sort of take that another level, it'd be like, well, imagine a mum who has to drop off the biggest sports stars in Australia.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be easier if all the sports were in one place? That's sort of where my mind went, and that's what I pitched, and that got up. So, and then from there, we were trying to negotiate with Serena Williams, trying to get her when she was down for the Australian Open.
Yeah,
obviously didn't happen, but yeah, the All-Star cast was amazing, and it was like a sort of 5-day shoot over.
Yeah, I was going to say, how in the world were they all available at the same time?
Well, we did 3 days in Sydney, 2 days in Melbourne.
Yeah, over
the stretch of a month.
And then the final bit of that scene is the overview in India. Was that just sourced or didn't?
Yeah. So that was, we shot that in a real dusty car park in Redfern. Okay. Sorry to break the magic.
So that wasn't. I legit thought that was India.
Yeah, they did a great job. The post job was really good. So
yeah,
they shot plates of the car, the mum's taxi. They literally grabbed some Indian style cabs.
Yeah,
that were in Sydney. I don't know where the hell you sourced that from, but they sourced it. So it looked like it was surrounded by cars in a traffic jam. And but that was just a dusty car park in Redfern.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool what they can do.
Yeah.
So that was heaps of fun, and as you say, you get to meet some of the biggest athletes in the country.
Yeah. The next one is I Am Dangerfield, and I'll set the scene for those who haven't seen it. And I think everyone should see them. Patrick Dangerfield's surfing in what looks like a really nice suit, and not something that I would get from, say, Tarakash. It looked like a disgusting day.
Yep, it was.
And it's just him surfing in that really nice suit and looking like he's in the zone, but also maybe look like he's hating life.
It was one of the coldest days of my life. It was middle of July in Moggs Creek, and I reckon it was 4 degrees. Legitimately, the top that day was 4 degrees.
Yeah.
Blowing an absolute Benny Gale. And
shout out to Ben Gale if he's listening.
And shout out to Men's Club who provided the suit for Patrick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If they want to come on as a sponsor,
Exactly.
I'm in need of a suit.
Desperate need if you watch this on YouTube.
Tara Cash won't be happy.
No, apologies. So that came about. That was basically, as I sort of mentioned earlier, the whole idea of doing a spot like that is to tie your brand to a star athlete and to bring sort of branded attention to, so in that case, Fox Footy, to people who don't have Foxtel, non-subscribers, people who don't have Fox Footy. So, did you see that Dangerfield ad? Have you heard about that Dangerfield ad? Oh, no, I haven't. What's that? Oh, it's on Fox Footy. Oh, okay, I might check it out.
Yeah.
Just, a bit of brand awareness for people who didn't subscribe. So that's the sort of idea behind doing those sort of spots. And again, it was like, I basically had a budget and they said, what do you want to do with it? And I said, well, it was the year Dangerfield won the Brownlow.
Yeah.
I was like, it'd be great to do something with Danger, but I thought I can't just pitch him something rubbish.
Yeah.
He won't do it. It has to be
He absolutely loves surfing.
Yeah. And it has to be something that's going to be different and excites him. And so I pitched the idea of the fact that he came home from Adelaide to play for Geelong. He's mixing business with pleasure. He wanted to work and live in Moggs Creek, play for Geelong sort of thing. So I was like, and then from there, mixing business with pleasure, well, let's put him in a business suit and have him surfing. Mm-hmm. So that was the idea behind it. But the actual day, as I said, it was one of the coldest days of my life. It was 4 or 5 degrees. And you sort of get a glimpse as to how dedicated and competitive these dudes are, because it was like half the swell was half a metre. Like, he couldn't even really surf on it. Yeah. And I reckon we sort of got 4 or 5 decent waves. He was out there for 2 hours. This was on a Wednesday, and then he played Fremantle in Perth on the Friday night.
Gee whiz.
Kicked 5 goals, got 3 Brownlow votes.
Wowie.
I was stressing. People were saying, I hope he doesn't get eaten by a shark, but I was more worried that he was going to...
Cold.
Yeah. Well, I thought he was going to snap his hammy.
Yeah.
Because it was so cold and he was getting... I thought, oh, God, please don't get injured.
Yeah.
But...
does the club have to sign off on that?
Yeah. But, well, they did. I think Danger probably...
players like that, they...
Play like that, and I would say that Danger came back for less money, so he probably had something where he was able to do more media commitments. Maybe that's just me guessing, but so it was really cool, and he was so competitive. Like he didn't want to stop until he'd felt like he'd caught enough waves to make it. Because there was times there where I'm like, I think we're
going to get it. Yeah.
And we had a jet ski. We had a underwater cameraman. He was this 6'6" dude who was sort of bobbing around in the water. Had a drone. The drone, it was a miracle it got up. It was so windy. Yeah. But we made it work. And then a bit of a head wobble. 2 years later, Hugo Boss and Chris Hemsworth ripped it off almost shot for shot. So
Mayo, no way.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
have you thought about maybe Slater and Gordon or Nowicki Carbone lawyers?
I don't know if there's a case, but look, it's probably just recognition that.
Well, I was going to say, in all seriousness, how would that make you feel?
It makes you. It's funny because I work. Basically, I'm just one dude working at a TV station. Yeah. And then these are, multi-million-dollar ad agencies, and that's what they choose to do. So it's a tip of the cap. Yeah. But that was really that was a photo of him went sort of front page of the Geelong Addy in his suit surfing, made the Channel 9 news that night. Yeah. So
and then you had head wobble.
That's when I was wobbling on. But in terms of its goal of reaching non-subscribers, that tick.
Yeah.
Channel 9 News, Geelong Addy, SEN were talking about it, all that kind of stuff. So that's ultimately, as a creative, that's what you want to do. You want to make something that,
creates a buzz.
Yeah, creates a buzz, gets attention.
Kind of like what I did today.
Yeah, which was, look, ideally you don't want to mislead people. and I felt you might have misled your fans there.
Yeah.
But-
So
You got to tread carefully with that.
yeah. Well, in the early startup days of the podcast business, I think I can.
Yeah,
If I can't post a photo of someone with Pat Cummins and then make it seem like I've got Pat Cummins coming on the show,
yeah.
then I don't know what I can do.
Well, there's two people in the shot,
And
I'm one of them.
and you're one of them. To be honest, we talked about this before. There are a number of people. I'm not going to name them. There's a number of people who know you, know who you are, and know me personally and how I am as a person, and still were like, "How in the world did you get Pat Cummins?" Spoiler alert: I did not.
Yeah.
I got Tim Buhagiar instead.
Yep, sorry, everyone.
No, that's completely fine. The last one I wanted to get into is probably going to be one that's really hard for you to top, and that's the Behavior Bros. Owen and Ben, your two sons, found their way into a Mexican standoff for the trade period, which had former Water Cooler Weekly guest Tom Morris on.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about like how cool that was and how special that is for your family.
It is like they've done a couple of little cameos before, but that was one where like they were the stars. Obviously.
They were legit the stars.
Yeah. And that one wasn't my concept. It was my co-worker Jai's concept, and he said, "Do you reckon your boys would be willing to do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." I don't even
just put the money into my account.
Tell them.
Yeah.
But it is good because they do get a bit of confidence out of it.
Yeah.
And so I just sort of you don't want to overcook them because then over prepare them because then they'll start to worry or whatever. So I just sort of said, Dave, night before, you're going to say this and then you're going to say that, and they're like, okay. I was like, cool. Yeah. Then we went down to Glen Auburn Park. Yeah. And then shot it, and it was just basically, copy this line, recite after me, sort of thing. And, they did a great job. Yeah, and as I said, it's just good. It's good for their confidence, and they'll head wobbling around primary school for the next week or so.
So they should be. I mean, I've done a lot less over my 30-year journey, and I've had a disgusting amount of head wobble for some real mediocre achievements.
Yeah, but and I mean they're privileged to be able to do something like that. Not every I know I was never on TV as a kid.
Yeah,
obviously the Altar Boy story, I got close but no cigar.
No, look, that's completely fine. Look, I know we've name dropped a few big names already, and watch your feet in case I drop some more. But is there anyone that stands out for you, like in terms of who you've worked with? I think Patrick Dangerfield would be a really interesting one to talk about, because the perception of him from the casual AFL fan is pretty ordinary, and I don't really understand that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure why he's pretty divisive. Some people are off him, some people are on him. But I really liked him, and I think he's willing to put himself out there.
Yeah, which I think is probably the
reason why a lot of people don't like him. But I think generally speaking, he's pretty shy, to be honest. But when the cameras are rolling, he knows what to do. And as I said, the fact that he's willing to put himself out there and do something like that, like if any player's ever going to walk straight into a long-term media career, it's him.
Yeah,
he's pretty smart, right? Like he's got his career set after footy, and all he had to do really is, not all he had to do, but what he's decided to do is put himself out there, train himself up to be great at media, and now he's got a 30-40 year career ahead of him after footy. Yeah. So hats off to him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But no, as I said, he was just that competitive drive he had to make sure he got. He wasn't going to hop out of that water until he'd done it. Whereas a lot of people might have just gone, it's too cold.
Yeah, I'm here for
this surf is shit.
Yeah, I'm here for an hour.
Yeah, I'm out
and I'm gone.
But he wasn't like that at all. But I find most of the AFL players, I'd say 95% are really good. There's obviously a few like anything. There's a few.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't want to play the game, and that's fine. But yeah, in terms of, and Dusty's actually a great actor.
Yeah.
as quiet as he is or whatever, but he nails it every time he does it as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And people are probably wondering, I mentioned at the start, I'm someone you've worked with.
Well,
Technically, like me and Dusty kind of did a collab where I lent Dustin Martin a hockey stick of mine, which I used in a couple of really high level Victorian ice hockey games.
Yeah. So you do have a connection. Yeah,
I do have a connection to Dustin Martin, so I kind of between us we've got a couple of Norm Smiths, a few premierships. Actually, I don't want to talk about that. I hate Richmond.
But like I did a shoot with Luke Longley. One of the nicest blokes you could ever meet.
Yeah.
Just knew exactly, just got it, gets the whole media game, knows what to say and that.
I imagine
and then you sort
that.
of think, this dude played in 3 championships with Michael Jordan. You're like, imagine the story. I know he's written a book in that, but just imagine this.
Imagine just like sitting around the campfire, like a few what would you put off the record stories?
Yeah.
Would be nice.
It'd take him a few growlers to get pretty drunk, I reckon. He's a big dude.
Oh,
but once you got him in that zone,
the stories would fly. Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think generally speaking, most of the people you work with are great because they're there to perform and
enhance their
do a
brand
job
as well.
And, it's a two-way street.
Yeah. Speaking of enhancing brands, Warwick Kappa is a person you've worked with.
Real rare dude.
It is. I probably should mention the last time I saw Wiz, Gold Coast footy trip. I remember we saw him a couple of days earlier, looking pretty nice, very dressed up, Sunday morning, one shoe on.
Oh, no.
One of Ed Hardy's finest T-shirts and a carton of darts. While sporting he was on the phone, sporting a phone with a pink case, and that's completely fine.
That's all right.
Just want to paint the picture. And there's, 20 or 30 blokes all just going, Whiz. And you sort of one hand on the phone, just bit of a send off. But that's Hollywood, baby.
Yeah. When I like, would he still wear Ed Hardy t-shirts?
Oh,
he might be the last bloke who's still he'd be hanging on to that, I reckon.
There are very few things in life I'm confident about just because of my lack of general underperformance. But I would put my non-existent house on it, that he still has a fair collection.
He'd have to. The spot I did with Wiz was with him and Mike Sheen, so real eclectic mix.
Basically the same person.
And it was for a little mockumentary thing called The Dangers of Short Shorts in Sports.
Yeah.
And it was so Fox Footy used to do these little themed rounds, which was basically a pissed. The AFL at one stage had so many themed rounds, opening round, Indigenous round, Anzac round,
rivalry round,
heritage round, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we were like, Jesus, how many rounds they got? Let's do a fake round.
Yeah.
But pretend it's AFLs. So we started with lefty round, celebrating all the left-handers and left-footers in the AFL. And people absolutely bought it. They're like, this has gone too far. The AFL lost the plot.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. And then the next year we did Freak Week. And so that spot, The Dangers of Short Shorts in Sports, was for Freak Week. And obviously the biggest freak was Kappa. So that was the climax of that spot. And it was basically reenacting, I think it was Paul Barry and Alan Bond have got this famous scene where Alan Bond's walking along the street after a court hearing, and Paul Barry sort of goes, Mr. Bond, and Bond's just giving him nothing, and he's like, Paul Barry, and he hands him his card, and Bond grabs the card and he throws it to the ground and stomps on it, and then, like a cigarette. And so I reenacted that, so Mr. Kappa, Mike Sheen, and then he hands over his card, and Warwick overacts the shit out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Real flamboyant.
Real pizzazz.
Stomps on the card, like he was in a daytime drama. And then, and it was perfect because it was exactly what I wanted. Yeah. And then end up having, this is just one of those bizarre moments where I had Mike Sheen chasing Warwick Kappa up the road and like trying to get that comment, but they were literally running
Up and like
up a steep hill.
and people have no idea what's going on.
No idea, and like Kappa's running in between wheelie bins, and Mike's chasing him, and then I was like, all right, cut, and then Mike's like, Budge, what am I doing here? What have you got me doing?
I've had an unbelievable career. This is the lowest. This is the lowest
You've
point of
got
my
me
boat.
chasing Warwick Kappa up the street. But yeah, it was. I mean, the Wiz got me to wear his leopard print jacket for a photo.
Yeah,
That was his idea, not mine.
yeah. Of course it
And
was.
so I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, like random dude, real rare man, but
Yeah.
I think the way you saw him probably sums up.
Oh, 100%. He was, and there's absolutely no mail in this. He was running for Gold Coast Mayor. Like, people can Google this. That was at that point in time. He was literally running for Gold Coast Mayor.
Surprised he didn't get it.
Well, yeah, funny you say that. I've just come back from Gold Coast myself. Obviously, I got a bit of colour.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There is nothing more that really epitomises Gold Coast based on the people and clientele I just saw than Warwick Kappa in that moment.
Yeah.
So that was a real special. That was a real special. Like, I don't remember much about the trip except for that. Like, that's ingrained into my.
Well, that's what he does, right? Like,
Yeah.
There's a moment in time you see Warwick and you never forget it.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Stepping into something more serious, creative people, whether that's a singer, a songwriter, painter, or someone like yourself, there's always the mental side around the creation and, is it good enough? Are people going to listen?
Yeah.
Maybe just touch on that and sort of how you deal with that side of the profession.
Well, I mean, creative's subjective, right? Like,
Yeah. I think people enjoyed the podcast. The numbers say otherwise.
or even the people who do enjoy the podcast, one person might say went too long. Someone else might say went too short.
I had that last Saturday.
Yeah, or
First two people I saw.
Yeah, exactly. So it's subjective, no matter what the art form is. You and I could go to an art gallery, and I might say that painting is shocking, and you might go, no, that's awesome. It's subjective. That's what it is. So you're never going to please everyone when you do creative, but I suppose the main aim from my point of view is trying to get whatever message. Like, it's the message first, the creative second.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to, as I said, tie Fox Footy's brand to a big name, I'm going to make sure that it's a good enough spot. Or if the message is all your sport in one place, how can that work creatively? It's like that mum's taxi idea. As long as there's a bit of a purpose and rhyme or reason to it, and then how people respond to that is you can't control it. But I suppose that's what makes creative such a powerful medium, is that people they are emotionally invested.
Yeah,
and they do have an opinion about it. Like getting an Uber here, I didn't tell the bloke that he rode the brakes a bit too hard, or that left turn wasn't any good. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? Whatever.
Yeah.
But when it's creative, it's amazing. Everyone's got an opinion.
Everyone has an opinion. Yeah.
And most of those people could do it better than what you do. That's
what they think.
That's what they think, and that's fine.
In my case, they're right.
Yeah. I don't know about that. But you can't take it personally. Like, I love, post one of my spots on Facebook, on social media, whatever, and I love going through the comments and seeing
like on the Fox Footy or Fox Sports. Yeah.
Like, I love reading through it.
That's dangerous.
No, well, because I don't care. Like, it's
okay. Yeah.
I did my job. In my opinion, I did my job, and it's the fact that it's creating an emotional response from people. Tick.
Yeah.
So whether someone thinks it's the worst thing they've ever seen in their life, that's cool. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And that happens a bit, but you can't, as I said, you can't control it. As long as it's trying to achieve its aim in terms of getting a message across or whatever. But the other thing with creative is that, like, we're not curing cancer or anything here. Like, it's doing creative for TV. Like, I'm extremely privileged to have this job.
It's like a 30 or 45 second clip.
Yeah, I'm extremely lucky to have this job, and what I do is, like, whatever. like it's important to the TV company because they're trying to make sales or do whatever, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important. So if people have an opinion either way, it doesn't really matter. But as I said, that's what makes creative really powerful, is that people have an emotional response and they might act on that response. So they might see something and go, you know what, I am going to subscribe to Fox Footy, or I am going to buy that product.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why it's so powerful, but everyone's got an opinion.
No, they do. How often do you find that people don't understand or misinterpret the message, though?
Sometimes, and that's probably like sometimes they are quite conceptual ideas, and you've got a bit of space to sort of move around in that area, and it doesn't really matter if people don't get it or not. But that's pretty rare. Like the Dusty Martin spot I did on the train, a lot of people didn't get, which is, I mean, I don't want to talk through a promo on a podcast because it's pretty boring, but
you can.
But I will. Yeah. But no, the basic idea was that Dusty was the representation of AFL.
Yeah.
And there was 5 different codes that were coming at him, and he was too good for all of them. So he was basically saying AFL's the best sport. But it was also a celebration of all his skills that make him such a good player, like fending off and can't tackle him, can't touch him. So it was sort of like in my mind, that was the 2 sort of messages, but a lot of people didn't get that. They were just like, oh, is that the All Blacks trying to get him? I was like, oh, no.
You didn't get any, is that Chris Bowen's hockey stick?
No, just, oh, well, your dad asked me, and I said, yeah, it is.
Yeah, he wants it back.
Can you have it back?
He needs it.
Yeah, and that spot worked regardless of whether you got it or not, because it was Dustin Martin who was fresh off of Brownlow.
Yeah.
So again, tying your brand to a star athlete is a pretty winning formula.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What sort of advice would you give someone who wants to take, say, a similar path to you? I know that the path, as we've discussed, isn't necessarily a fairly linear path, but let's talk about it from, say, the promotion side of things.
Well, I mean, there's so many. Like I wanted to do a media course, a media degree, but I didn't. My TR was too low, and that's why I ended up doing sports admin, which was, as I said, fun course, but it was completely useless to my career path.
What university?
Vic Uni.
Same here.
Shout out Sunbury campus.
Shout out. Yeah, I did sports and rec that TAFE course through Cricket Victoria.
Yeah, right.
And I wore the shorts everywhere. And people were like, "Are you really good at cricket?" I'm like, fuck
yes.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'm kind of involved with Cricket Victoria, which was not a lie.
No, exactly.
I still wear them.
No, exactly. Like your photo of me in Cummins wasn't a lie.
No, absolutely not. And you know what? I will say this. I know we're deviating here from the question, but I stamp everything I said was genuine. There was no. There was a bit of mayo. Granted, there was a bit of mayo. There was a lot of mayo, but it was also, I didn't lie to anyone. Like,
correct.
I'd never said Pat Cummins was coming on.
Correct.
Like, I've learned a lot about people and their attention to detail, and a lot of people, it's pretty ordinary.
That's the thing. No one. That's the other thing I was going to say. Like, you know, my job it's a privilege, and it's not that important in the grand scheme of things. But no one pays attention to your creative like you do.
Yeah. Oh yes.
You know, like generally speaking, especially if one of my spots came on Foxtel, the chances that a person watching, high odds he's got a stubby in his hand, he's probably looking at his phone.
Yeah.
So you got to try and do a bit of creative that's going to get him from looking up on his phone,
and then keep him.
And go, what's that? Oh, that was stupid. Or that was pretty good. Or something that, Anyway, in terms of advice, and I think it's twofold. I was lucky, but I think that the old saying, "It's not what you know, it's who you know," is unfortunately pretty true,
accurate. Yeah,
but it's not just that. Like, you have to seize those moments. So when you meet someone, it's such a, especially creative and TV, it's such a small industry. You can't burn bridges. I don't know if that's a trait you have.
We're not going to get into that right now.
But you can't burn bridges because, it's such a small industry. But as I went through, like meeting different people at different stages, just fostering those relationships, just not, just being a decent bloke with them served me well, because there came a time when I needed to rely on them to try and get to that next job or whatever it was. So, not who you know. Sorry, not what you know. Who you know is important, and that's a shame. But my advice would be, any relationship or any person you meet, if you're trying to get into that industry, for example, any person you meet in that industry, you have to leave a good impression. And you have to try and foster a relationship, so you can say, "Oh, can I call you?" or "Can I email you?" Whatever it is, you got to put yourself out there. And the other thing is I did work my ass off to get, and when I did get a job, it was like, I may not be the most talented, but I'm going to outwork you. I will. I did massive hours, and like at Carlton, I was 7 days a week, and in TV land, I'd work ridiculous hours, and I was young, I was able to, didn't have a family, but so it's a mixture of just working really hard and getting lucky and building relationships that you have would be my advice. Yeah. If that's advice.
That's okay. There's interesting you talk about the work ethic sort of side of it. Is I had Coburg VFL's head coach Andrew Sturgis on, and he sort of talked about how he's very lucky. So it's his first year as a head coach. He talked about how lucky he was, but also from the fact that, because he knew the right people. But in the same sentence, he said, "But I know I've put the work in."
Yeah, that's right.
So while it obviously knowing the right people is a very important aspect, sadly in some cases, but if you're not, and when we're talking about it, say a VFL or a Fox Footy or a Foxtel kind of a level, we're not in the minor leagues or whatnot. So you'll get found out.
That's right.
You can get the job, but if you're not going to put the work in, you'll get found out pretty quickly. And
they'll cut you pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's a combination of, and I mean, like me sending that resume off just blindly to 3 TV channels.
Bold,
but lucky. If the boss of Fox Footy doesn't see the letter and ring me up on the landline, who knows what? I'd probably stay at Carlton or whatever happens.
Yeah.
But
jeez.
But you've got to be prepared to do, put yourself out there and try and work the angles, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very interesting because I certainly can vouch for that. Like, I took a job at Sportsbet working in customer service, which I was pretty unprofessional at the start, but I got a bit of a reality check. Sort of told that you want to be one of those people, and working in customer service for the rest of your life, that's completely fine. But it wasn't something that I wanted, and just by chance I replied to an email. I literally happened to read it, and I was like, well, this team is folded.
Yeah.
And so through that, I got some experience to doing a different side of it, and then I ended up being working on the trading floor there and covering American sport for like 6 years.
Yeah.
So like if I don't reply to that email,
exactly. Yeah.
I'm
who knows what you're doing?
Working in customer service.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I think
it's just little sort of fork in the road moments that happen, I suppose.
Yeah, and everyone has them too.
Yeah.
Usually I finish up these episodes by asking people what they're like outside of the job, but I don't think this is going to work for you. So I've got 2 questions for you instead. The first one is, you have a pretty impressive Hollywood doppelganger.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to get one when I was a kid, but it won't be who you're thinking of. But go on.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why, because you are, married with 2 kids, but you participated in an application which you put a photo of yourself, and it gives you you're a celebrity lookalike. Do you remember who it was?
It was one of the Olsen girls.
It was Ashley.
Which is a more attractive one, I would have thought.
Yeah. I don't know I don't know if that's a good thing for you or it's definitely a bad thing for her.
Definitely a bad thing for her. It's probably the jaw structure.
Yeah. Very similar, very similar jaw.
Yeah, and that's like, it's AI based, so they just go to the jaw and just go, well, that's a no brainer.
They completely overlooked the hairline.
Yeah.
and the lack of the hairline.
Lost the forward pockets, lost the centre half back.
don't worry, mate. I got the golden arches. I've actually got I'll show you off air. I've got an animated McDonald's golden arches that fits perfectly in my hairline, which is kind of depressing.
Well,
but
grass doesn't grow on a busy road, mate.
That's it. And then unfortunately it doesn't in my head either. So that's the first one. And the second one is you're also really good friends with the late great Bob Hawke.
Oh, yes. I mean, I've dined out on this story. It's a good story, though.
It's a great
How many
story.
times? Yeah, so I couldn't tell you what year it was, but it was when the Metro nightclub was at its peak on Burke Street.
3 levels.
3 levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to have, So this was a Saturday night, Pop, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Jared Carey, a mate of mine, we'd been at the Metro. We walk outside on Burke Street. It was post midnight. I don't know what time it was, though.
Yeah.
And Fast Eddie's used to be a cafe chain, which is no longer with us. Rest in peace. Just a couple of buildings down, and we got out of Metro, and Jared looked, and he goes, "I reckon that's Bob Hawke." I'm like, "That's not Bob Hawke. It's 1 o'clock on Burke Street." Saturday night. Like, what are you talking about? And it was this figure just sitting at the table by himself, just in that drunken stupor. And I was drunk myself, and I went, "Hey, Bobby!" And then all of a sudden, this figure just shot up, hand up, and we're like, "Oh,
shit.
Surely not." So we walked down and it was Bob Hawke sitting by himself having a cappuccino.
At what time?
It would have been around 12:30, 1 o'clock.
You need that sometimes.
Yeah, but he was absolutely cooked. But sitting by himself at Fast Eddie's, and so Jared and I pulled up a seat next to him, and then the waitress comes out.
I'm sure he was absolutely thrilled.
Well, he was just, he was not in a position to care either way.
Yeah.
So the waitress comes out. She goes, "What do you want?" And I said, "I'll have what Bob's having." And so it turned out to be a cappuccino. So she comes out with a cappuccino, and so we've sort of woken him up a bit. He starts engaging with us. We're like, "What are you up to, Bob? What's going on?" He's like, he owned a horse and it was racing at Flemington that day and it won.
Yeah.
He had a blinder.
Yeah.
And how an ex-prime minister finds himself by himself.
Oh, literally the first thing that just comes to my mind at that point.
But he'd obviously had a pretty big one.
Yeah.
And then so Jared goes, "Oh, do you smoke cigars, Bobby?" He goes, "Yeah, I love a cigar." He goes, "All right, wait there." So Jared he's off.
Gone.
He's off, and I'm just sitting there with Bobby. We've both got our cappuccinos, and I can't remember what we're talking about. And then sort of 5 minutes later, Jared comes back with 3 cigars. So we light them up, and all 3 of us are smoking cigars, just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And then as more people are starting to leave nightclubs around the area, they're sort of starting to twig on that it's Bob Hawke.
And Tim Buhagiar.
And
Jared Carey.
And Jared Carey. So,
holy shit, I didn't know they're crewing up.
And so people sort of coming up, and I'd go, "Hey, mate, if you don't mind, I'm just trying to have a coffee with me on man." Because I didn't want to, and they were like, "Oh, sorry, mate. I'm like, "Yeah, jog on." Like, I'm trying to have a coffee with my old man here. Like, how rude, like, the disrespect. Because I didn't want to share it. It's like, you got the ear of the former Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Let's just make this count. Absolutely. And so we're smoking the cigars. But in the end, the tidal wave was too much and people just started to sort of flock to the table. And it started getting a little bit messy and we're sort of like, Jared and I, all right, we're out of here.
Yeah.
So we said to Bob, "Mate, so nice to meet you. Can you sign this?" And I've got this bit of paper.
Yeah, I'm going
to... It's the worst...
It's awful.
Autograph
I've
ever... But it's an autograph. And this is obviously before mobile phones, so there's no selfies. And my last memory of it was he had this this girl with a very short dress on his lap with a cigar with the cigar in his hand, like just having the time of his life. Just could not be any more in his element. I'm like, that's a pretty good, like, I'll leave it. That's beautiful. See you later, Bob.
Absolutely. I think that's probably the best way to remember him. Like, yeah, he was a former prime minister, but he's probably the most beloved prime minister
absolutely.
we've had by a fair distance.
Yeah, well, because he was prepared to do something like, no other prime minister would do that. The fact that, he was such a people person, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really, that's just such a random moment.
Yeah. It is.
I've dined out on that story, absolutely.
No, it's an absolutely incredible story and an incredible way to finish. Tim Buhagiar, very, very funny man, and thank you for a really interesting look into behind the lens. And I think a lot of creative people or people who, people like myself who are sort of just starting to do the creative thing will take a lot from this. And so thank you very much for coming on and sharing a few stories and having a few laughs.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Cheers.